Welcome. In this session, we would understand the applications of applied geomorphology. Now, geomorphology, we have nearly covered most of the topics. Most of the students are clear with the problems that are asked in the topics related to geomorphology, but when it comes to applied geomorphology, most of them get confused. Now, if I try to explain the basic concepts of geomorphology, I can say they are incomplete until and unless I try to apply those. So, in words of Craig and Kraft, who tried to explain geomorphology, they said that geomorphology tends to apply itself at either one place or another. It can be used to evaluate the resources, it can be used for any developmental projects or any other related field. So, unless and until we are applying geomorphology somewhere, it is, I could say, of no use to study geomorphology. So, what we basically do under applied geomorphology is we pick out the current problems and we work around the future predictions. So, these two, some of these two would help us work around the applied geomorphology. So, let us say river flooding. That is a common problem that has been heard of these days. So, if there is cases of river flooding or waterlogging taking place in rainy seasons, so what we are discussing here is the current problems, and what we need to do is to mitigate those, and for those we need to do future predictions. So the urban areas should be planned in such a way that waterlogging should not be an issue. So along the highways there should be holes, or I could say pathways through which the extra collection of water should percolate down, and that water which is percolating down should be used should be accumulated, and this could be used for watering the roadsides or the highway areas, the agriculture surrounding the highway areas. So that is one of the mechanisms that is used in most of the Western countries. So this I can say is an application of geomorphology. Similarly, you have many topics where you can apply geomorphology. So if you have a diagram here, I can say a tree is definitely good, it gives us oxygen, it produces its own food, so on and so forth. So understanding geomorphology is like growing of a tree. However, if the tree is able to provide fruits, that is much more beneficial. So if you are able to apply the geomorphological concepts, that would be much more beneficial. So what we can say is we can broadly classify this into 4 divisions. The application can be for social significance, it could be of social use, it can help in impact assessment and management of the problem, it would help us to do prompt decision makings, and finally identify the specific regions or the prone regions and prevent losses in these regions. So these 4 are the major heads under which we try to demarcate the sections of applied geomorphology. Charley and Schunz, when they were classifying or they were discussing about applied geomorphology, they said there are 2 main criteria that we understand while talking about applied geomorphology. First is human beings play an active role. I say human beings play an active role, that means human beings are kind of geomorphic agents. And how does this take place? Creation of dams, creation of roadways, improvements in agriculture techniques. So all these are done by human beings. So I can say humans are morphogenic agents, and therefore they work around the applications of geomorphic processes. The second is the resources, the aid to evaluate the resources. So evaluation of resources is another important criteria. For example, if I have a map of India here, I say the southern India should go around for copper mining, but the main idea should be here whether this region has ample resources for copper, whether copper mining is feasible in this region. So evaluation of resources and analysis is another important thing. So there are two important parameters that we need to understand while talking about applied geomorphology. Now as we move forward for the applied geomorphology section, there are few things that you need to keep in mind. Throughout this lecture we would be talking, or we will be briefly discussing some of the major case studies. These case studies will help you develop a perspective why we need to study applied geomorphology and where all we can apply the concepts of geomorphology in our daily life. Now let's say we recently talked about one of the smart city projects. So origin of towns, if I work on this topic, previously what used to be there was the towns were mainly along the riverside or waterways. So the location of the town, the spatial location of the town was governed by the geomorphic processes there. Again, I could say towns which were used for defense purposes were on an elevated hill. So all the palaces, all the forts you would see on a hillock or elevated landsides. So for defense purpose, if there has to be a town or a fort that needs to be located, it's usually on a high hilly area. So these are some of the geomorphic parameters that were considered for the development of cities from the prior times. Now if I talk about recent days, we can say we develop cities along the highways. So that's again another application of geomorphology, that is from the natural geomorphic processes to the transportation lines or the transportation arteries. So this is one way I can explain geomorphology. Now application of geomorphology could have both positive impacts as well as negative impacts. Positive impacts are a lot around, we see those in our day-to-day life, but still we have a lot of negative impacts. For example, if I am creating a dam, creation of dam would lead to soil erosion, and that soil erosion would be accelerated in certain regions. So that region would go, I could say barren, or the fertility of that region would decrease. So these are some of the negative impacts. Again, one of the negative impacts would be for the purpose of urban development, I could say trees are being cut out around the countryside. So deforestation is again one of the negative impacts of application of geomorphology. This deforestation would lead to higher flow of soil, so it would increase the soil erosion problem, so on and so forth. Now when we talk about applied geomorphology, let's say we can work around some of the major areas. So first, let's say would be natural hazards. When we talk about natural hazards, mitigation of natural hazard is one of the major concerns. So proper analysis, forecasting, predicting the vulnerability and mitigation would be some of the major things that we would work around. So be it a flood prone area, be it a cyclonic condition, a landslide zone, or a zone with heavy erosion, all these would come under natural hazards, and the implications or the applications would be mainly related to these fields. So that is one of the common examples that we talk about. The next is geohydrology. Geohydrology means when we talk about the water flow, be it the flow from the glaciers, from the top of the mountains, the melting of the glaciers, or be it the region around the riverine region. A good example would be Indira Gandhi Nehar Pariyojana. Now this Indira Gandhi Nehar Pariyojana was started in the state of Rajasthan to provide water to the arid regions of the Thar desert. Now this arid region, I could say this project had good results for few time, but later on it had a lot of negative impacts on the region. So this project aimed to provide water to the desert region of Rajasthan. Now the aim was to connect a canal from the Ghaggar river, and this canal would provide water to the desert regions, but while considering this fact, the topography of the soil was not considered, since there was hard rock at the base of the soil. So at the base you had a hard rock, so water percolation could not take place since there was lack of water percolation. What happened was this creation led to problems of waterlogging. When there was problem of waterlogging, it led to over irrigation and there was seepage loss. So there was lot of over irrigation in this region and there was seepage losses. As a result of waterlogging, you had problems of salinity that grew highly in this region. When there was higher salinity in this region due to higher water table, ultimately it led to I could say again the region got barren and there was no proper agriculture that could take place in this region. So that I could say could be explained as some of the negative impacts of this project that we had. So application of geomorphological processes needs to be conducted with a thorough study of the real geomorphology. So if the real underground topography was studied correctly, there could have been the problems of waterlogging and salinity could have been resolved at a much better pace. Now next here is resource management. When we talk about resource management, we can explain it either in terms of renewable resources and non-renewable resources. So I can say you have solar energy, water energy, wind energy, and under non-renewable resources you have mining, oil explorations, limestone, so on and so forth. So one of the case studies that we would discuss here is Netherlands. So in the Netherlands, what happened is most of the land is low lying, and because it's low lying, it is a lot of seawater that intrudes into that region. So what happened was a large scale reclamation process took place for the low lying areas, which if you have heard is commonly known as polders. So these regions developed I could say had a good agricultural prosperity later on. So that was one of the successful examples of land reclamation. The next example is Switzerland. Switzerland in and around the Jura lakes. What happened was you had a lot of flooding that came in from the Erie river that provided water to the Jura lake. Since there was lot of flooding coming in, there was a need to alleviate the flooding, and to alleviate this flooding, the land that was surrounding this region was reclaimed, and that reclamation was again one of the successful efforts. Similar studies took place at the Belgian coastline also, where you had the problems related to beach erosion and that was resolved. So these are some of the examples that we could explain under resource management. You have the next example. You have regional planning. So regional planning, what we tend to do is we start with where we are now and where we need to be. So what we tend to do is we discover our potentials. So we work around those potentials and finally we try to implement those. So we try to divide the region based on the various parameters of regional planning. So let's say for example, if I am trying to demarcate the region based on the agricultural productivity or which region, which crop would be best suitable for. So I could say I am dividing the region based on crop combination, for example. So what I am trying to do is I am trying to analyze the region first. I am trying to analyze the soil, the agricultural potentiality, the water, the temperature, the humidity in this region, and then based on that I am trying to demarcate, okay, this region would be good for such and such crops and so on. Another example would be urban sprawl. So again, when we talk about urban expansion or urban sprawl towards the countryside, what we are trying to do is we are trying to understand this through the developmental corridors, or I could say those could be either industrial corridors, mining corridors, those could be transportation networks or anything. But what is the basic technique that you are using here? You can use various techniques. So some of the major techniques that are used to assess or to delineate problems related to applied geomorphology would be GIS. You have the satellite imagery, so you use remote sensing data. Then you can use some of the secondary data sources like population data, agricultural data, census data, so on and so forth. The cause of the sustainable changes that are taking place in the region. So these are some of the techniques that you apply. With the help of these techniques, you try to work around the demarcation of the region To identify the region, the basic idea is to prevent losses in the region. For example, if we talk about the cases of Odisha, the famine in Odisha, so you have farmer suicide cases that you hear off and on in the region of Odisha. So if I talk about this region, what we need to do is we need to understand the agricultural potential there, the productivity there, and how to divert waters to these regions. So Jal Panthan could be one of the examples that could help in diversifying or demarcating the regional planning or the various regions. The next is economic geology. The best example I could cite here is the Bingham Canyon copper mines. Now Bingham Canyon copper mines is one of the biggest copper mines in the world. Now this copper mine is located in the Salt Lake City of Utah, United States. What is specific about this was, initially this was an effort to dig copper, but as in time passed on, it was realized that creation of such a huge mining area created problems related to landslide in the region. Again, such huge mining regions have what is known as tailing dams. These tailing dams are the region where you have the extra leftover from the mining activities that is stored in this region. Now, when this mine was established, this tailing dam was established, and this tailing dam overshadowed the town which was known as Magma Town. Now, what is the real concern at present is, if there is any threat related to say earthquake or volcanic activity in the region, what would happen is this dam would burst out and all the flow would go to the Magma Town, and there could be severe destruction in the Magma Town, or I could say this town would be totally destroyed. So this is one of the negative implications again of the application of geomorphological processes. So you need to be very sure where the correct mining sites need to be discovered. Again, this mining site, similar to other mining sites, is a source of high arsenic and lead, and that has led to poisoning in the nearby homes and the nearby surroundings. So these are some of the major drawbacks that Bingham Canyon copper mine has led to the region. Now, applied geomorphology is also applied for the warfare purposes. So it was mainly during the First World War and the Second World War. You had applications in the warfare, and finally you have the applications in the engineering projects. When I say applications in the engineering projects, there would be three case studies that we would be discussing. The first is the case study of Israel. Now Israel is a region of desert, and that desert region flourishes with very good agriculture, the reason being the idea of drip irrigation. So this technique leads to good agriculture in I could say a dry bed. So drip irrigation proved to be a boon in the region of Israel, and that was again one of the applications towards the engineering projects for geomorphology. So that is one thing. The next thing is the Sony Yojana that we have recently discussed in yesterday's class, so you can check out the video there. So this is how we divert the water from Narmada to the dry areas of the Saurashtra region in Gujarat. The idea is to provide the excess water that is coming from these rivers to the region which are drier. So the whole idea of interlinking of rivers could be a successful idea to explain the applied geomorphology, or you can say the geohydrological concepts. And finally is creation of dams. That is again one of the major ideas under engineering projects that will take place for the applied geomorphology. So with this we cover some of the basic ideas, and this gives you a broad I could say outline on how we could develop understanding for applications of geomorphology in our day-to-day life. We will be covering more topics along with the application of climatology, the applied climatology, in a separate session. You can subscribe to our classes for further updates. We have also released the test series for UPSC Mains 2016, so you can just check out those at the link given below. You can get those answers evaluated if you like. Have a good day ahead.